Hey there, guys and girls, or should I say boys and girls? Guys and girls. Hey everybody, and welcome back to another quick... Hey there, Glassman Boppers, and welcome to another episode of... Take Your Shoes Off, with me, your host, Rick Glassman. Today we have a special treat, not only because that's what you say before the beginning of an episode, but also because this guest is a Tony Award-winning, 3-time Emmy-nominated powerhouse of film, television, and stage, Joe Mantegna. You may remember Joe Mantegna from such films as Three Amigos, The Godfather 3, Airheads, Baby's Day Out, Forget Paris, and Fat Tony on The Simpsons. That's why I said you may remember this guy from such films as, because that's what Troy McClure says in The Simpsons. I met Joe Mantegna about a month ago when I was filming my big Hollywood Amazon television pilot. Now, Joe plays my dad, and we hit it off right away. Not only because he's such a kind, warm person, but because I have such an infectious, positive energy, he couldn't help but be attracted to it. When I first met him, Joe said, "Hey there, you got an attractive energy there." I can't use this. I don't know if that sounds like I'm making fun of him. If you're thinking, Rick, did you move apartments? No, I'm still at my parents' house in Cleveland. This is some of the pictures of my brother and me. Picture this wall all around my house. Upstairs, living room, kitchen, bedrooms, garage, bathroom, guest bathroom, child bathroom, the den, in the cupboards. We got more pictures than you could put on a... You could count. What's really cool about coming back to Cleveland is, though it's really cold around this time, we have a home gym where I could get all of my exercises done. I know you see me on the Gazelle Edge elliptical, but that isn't all we have. We also have the Titan 450 Schwinn BioFit and the Airdyne Ergometer bike. You best believe this thing is a fucking powerhouse. And fuck me if this Schwinn quality BioFit bike doesn't work my glutes off. The point I'm making is I love being home. I don't have much energy for doing this right now. You guys, thank you so much for watching and liking this podcast. I've been getting such nice messages and feedback, not just from people who I don't know on YouTube, but even my peers have been talking about me on other podcasts. It feels really good. We're almost at the 10,000 subscriber mark. That's a milestone. I want to give a shout out to Perry Groan, who has been helping me edit a lot of these episodes recently, including this one with Joe Mantegna. Oh, is it Mantegna? How do I not know that? Dad, is it Joe Mantegna or Joe Mantegna? How do you pronounce Joe Mantegna? With Joe Mantegna. If you're at home watching this on YouTube at youtube.com/Rick Glassman, or you got to the direct link from rickglassman.com, take off your shoes. There's been a new rule implemented. If this is your first time watching, enjoy. If this is your second or more, you gotta press subscribe. You gotta click the bell, because if you don't subscribe, you don't get to watch. If I ever find out that you watched 2 or more episodes and you're not subscribed, I'm gonna lose my shit. I'm gonna lose my shit. You press subscribe, you press it, and you post about it on social media. All right? Shoes off, get a glass of something, a Paul Newman's lemonade or a glass of water. We only have a few more weeks before the new year, and at the end of this year, I have a surprise plan that's gonna knock your socks off, assuming your shoes are already off. Otherwise, it's just gonna maybe untie your shoes. You wanna know what it is? You're gonna have to follow Shoes Off Pod on Instagram, because I'm gonna be posting sneak peeks and special clips that you could only get there. You guys have been great. I'm sweating. That's probably because I'm working so hard on my Gazelle Edge. All jokes aside, you guys have been fucking real cool with me. Thanks for all the likes, thanks for all the comments, thanks for the support, thanks for the fan art. Well, anyway, scoot to Bobbity Blue. I'm gonna have you over there. So I'm sitting there. You have to go for the back. So, actually stay on your phone.
It's actually shutting off the phone. Shutting off the phone. Okay.
Do you want to go without the headphones?
Can I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
past few guests have all opted no headphones, and this is a new thing to me. Love headphones.
Really?
Love. Oh, this is not on you. Well.
Why would I want to hear myself?
Well, you're gonna hear yourself, so wouldn't you want to hear yourself better? That's like
No.
why film this in high definition?
Yeah, but I'm not seeing it instantly in high def. I don't know. Well, I don't know.
Well,
Then I look like a guy in headphones.
Scoot doo, blabbity blue, scoop dee. Oh yeah.
We're like narrating a boxing
you look
match
so much like
or
my dad,
something.
man.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's good. Hopefully it'll all be good in the press later when they said, "Wow, look at he's played his dad for 10 years and he even looked like him."
I would love if we could have my dad come in for one of the EPK things and like play
Yeah.
you for a sec.
Yeah, that'd be good. I'd be up for it.
But I wanted to tell you something that I've talked about on this podcast before, that in joke form, but there's truth to it. Jackie Tone, a girlfriend I had years ago, once when we were dating, told me that she thought I wasn't listening to her, and I was. And what I learned in a passive aggressive way on my end was that people want you to go,
Oh, I get it.
yeah, that.
Yeah, I get it.
Oh. So when I'm wearing these and I could hear myself go, and I've done it as a joke, I kind of hear what you're hearing. And it's like, oh, I see how that.
I see.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay. So just so you know, during this,
Right.
there will be times that I'm probably going to be.
Okay.
And I would appreciate it
Yeah.
reciprocated.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
All right. So because you can't hear, we do
Yeah.
have to move this a little bit for you.
Okay. Okay.
The most relaxed person I've
Okay.
ever seen.
Yeah. You probably didn't know Dean Martin.
I haven't. Do you know Dean Martin well?
No, but it was pretty. From what I gather, it was pretty relaxed.
It's a joke my dad would say.
Yeah, and I patterned myself after him in life. I played him. I did the movie Rat Pack, and I played him. So I did a lot of research on him, and I thought, yeah, that's me. That's my role model in life.
What did you learn that you wanted to emulate?
Well, I mean, he was that kind of like, if you, in time of doubt, try to chill out.
When is there a moment that before you did that you weren't chilling out, and then realizing, Dean Martin would chill out?
No, I don't know if there was a moment, but I just realized that he kind of exemplified what I kind of. In other words, he was this giant of show business and stuff, and yet I thought, and once I had to do all this research on him, I thought, whoa, this is a guy who not only did I admire for what he was as a performer, but I can relate to what his philosophy kind of life is like in some ways. That I'll put it this way: like in my research of that movie, what I came away with was that if I had to describe what the Rat Pack was, meaning that group that was Sammy Davis and Frank and Dean and Joey Bishop and all those guys of that era, that it would be better described as a pack of dogs. There was the dog pack, and that Frank was the lead dog, Frank Sinatra.
What kind of dog?
Well, it would be like a, I don't know, like a lead kind of a dog, whatever would be a lead dog.
I mean,
Snapping, the dog like Tramp of Lady and the Tramp. He'd be the Tramp.
Okay.
He'd be the lead dog, but that Dean would be the cat. He wouldn't be a dog.
Is that what the cat that wore the sunglasses? I don't remember.
No, there wasn't a cat in the movie. I'm just saying he would be the cat in that group of dogs.
I'm picturing Feifel Goes West, American Tail. There's a
that's
cat
a
with
whole other
sunglasses.
thing. No, this would just be the cat that ran with the dogs. So in other words, he kind of is like, yeah, you guys, that's great. You go ahead, you're yapping around and doing all that, but I'm gonna be over here, and I'll be doing this. And that was kind of Dean Martin, and that's what I kind of admired about him, and kind of I try to. The older I get, it's easier and easier to emulate that.
Because you said, how is it easier to emulate that?
Because I'm getting old.
You say getting older.
Because I'm getting old. You get older, it's easy to get more relaxed. Because eventually, I'm going to be ultimately relaxed.
I guess I could connect to that.
Not yet. You're too young to connect to that.
Yeah,
You'll get it. You'll get it when you're like my age.
Because the past few years, I mean, the anxiety goes up and up.
Yeah, forget about it.
So then, when does it go down?
Well, there always will be anxiety. It'll be a different kind of anxiety, but then you'll come to the point where you realize, fuck it, what can I do about it? You can only do what you can do. Once you can kind of accept that, you can kind of just take a deep breath and just kind of then say, what can I do now? What can I do tomorrow that will just kind of, I'll really like? And that'll kind of,
you decide,
I'll get off on that.
You pick about something that you want to do tomorrow and then you'll do it?
Yeah, if I can, yeah. Exactly. I'll think of something that I like, yeah.
You have a birthday in a couple of days, Wednesday.
I do.
Do you have an idea of what you want to do there, and that's going to relax you?
No, my birthdays don't relax me. Birthday is kind of a stressful thing because everybody else wants to kind of impose their will on you.
Give me an example.
Well, I mean, there'll be a lot of people that will call me and text me and emails, and I'll feel obligated to kind of respond, and I really don't want to.
Do you? And you have to respond?
No, I don't have to respond, but I tend to be. I think I'm a good boy that way, in the sense that I try to. I won't respond to everybody because I don't think they'll expect it. But it's not that I don't appreciate it, but it's just like, it's just a birthday. I mean, it's just all right. Go have
those types of things. I feel people don't realize that they're setting you up for something. Like, you're putting an obligation on me. I don't like when somebody tells me, "Hey, tell your mom I say hello."
Yeah, exactly. Now you got it right. Exactly. Well, that's because you're a good boy. You're a bitch.
How is me being
you
good?
would let that bother you. You actually would think about that. And
I'll say I don't. I won't. I say no.
But you don't.
I'll say I say maybe.
Oh, well, that's good. Well, then you're a semi-mensch.
Yeah. So you're saying it's menschy to consider it, but semi
it's
because I'm
menschy
not
to consider
doing it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I'm kind of menschy that way because I'll consider it, and I might even do it.
Is the Jewish that's inside of you because you're Italian or because you're in showbiz for so long?
Both.
Yeah?
I would think both.
Do you think you've become more Jewish as you've gotten older, even though you're not?
I directed this play called, it's running right now in Chicago, called I'm Not a Comedian, I'm Lenny Bruce.
Yeah.
And he has a line in the play, he says, if you're from New York, even if you're not, you're Jewish. And there's something... So it's not even if you're from New York. I think if you're somewhat, maybe in maybe show business has something to do with it, but also just the urban lifestyle that I've lived.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in Chicago.
Did you grow up around a lot of Jews in Chicago?
A lot. Well,
I grew up with a lot of Jews.
I would say not a lot. More when I was living in New York. I mean,
Right.
I'd go to Brighton Beach and,
I don't know Brighton Beach.
Oh, man, forget about it.
So Italian now.
Brighton Beach is very Jewish. Got a lot of Hasids living around there and all that. It was great. I mean, and look, for 15 years I was in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
Theater wouldn't exist without Jews.
When is that? Late 70s, early 80s?
Late 60s, all of the 70s, and half of the 80s. That's all I did.
You won a Tony for Glengarry Glen Ross. That was in 84?
84. So right up until 84.
Did you stop after that?
Not that I stopped, but let's just say show business wise, it was all theater from 69. Well, prior to 69, even in high school, junior college.
Yeah, will you tell me that? Tell me about that. You start doing drama in high school.
I started doing drama because I saw the movie. I didn't know nothing about drama. I didn't know nothing about theater. I didn't know how to spell theater.
I'm still not sure if it's RE or ER. I think it's RE if you're being
It's
cute.
You know what's funny? I was with the Organic Theater of Chicago, run by Stuart Gordon, created by this wonderful director, Stuart Gordon.
Is this no pesticides? I don't understand what makes it organic.
I don't know either, to tell you the truth. Doesn't matter. I think it's because he was influenced by Paul Sills and all that, and there was a whole organic thing going. But he was adamant about spelling his theater THER. He thought RE was pretentious.
Of course.
Yeah, and so he'd get upset if it was RE. But it seems like a lot of them do it RE.
Yeah?
I don't know. Maybe, I thought it was kind of like a Canadian thing, like jewelry and jewelry.
Oh, I thought of it more like a European thing. I look at when people who spell theater RE is the same people that when you say, how you doing, they say well instead of good. Even though it's proper, they're telling me it's proper.
See, I never thought it that deeply. But maybe you're right. But it really bothered Stuart. Nothing really bothered me that much. So even to today, when I type out theater, if my fingers go to RE, I leave it. If it goes to ER, I leave it. I don't give a shit. They get it. They know what it is. Theater, it's theater. My point being, I didn't know shit about theater, whether it was ER or RE in my youth. Uh-huh. But what happened was, In fact, my first real theater experience, my brother, who's 8 years older than me, got free tickets to a play. No, I didn't. No, he didn't get free tickets. He bought the tickets to take his girlfriend to a play downtown Chicago, like big deal date. He was going to take her out on.
I know you don't think it's important. I'd like to know if you remember her name.
He married her.
Really?
Oh yeah, he's still with her. He's been married. My brother's been married for 1,000,000 years.
Could you tell me her first name?
Kay.
Kay. So he buys the theater tickets for Kay.
He buys theater tickets for him and Kay to go to this play. In the mail, 3 tickets arrived instead of 2.
Someone accidentally pressed 3 the
Somebody
way you
hit
pressed
3.
R instead of E, and they said, fuck
exactly.
it. Sure.
So now he's got 3 tickets. And for whatever reason, he says to his girlfriend, well, fuck, we got an extra ticket. Do you mind if I take my brother, who was like 15, me? And she said, yeah. Oh, fine. So I went. And it was a play called Mary Mary. So it's drama, popular, I guess, at the time. And we saw it downtown at the legitimate theater downtown Chicago. And it was like, I mean, you know.
Mm-hmm. Did they feel the same way?
I don't know. I don't even remember. But I wasn't impressed. So my point being, I didn't think I was being pointed toward a life in show business. But then the movie West Side Story came out, maybe a year later. And that movie was like, it was fantastic. I mean, back then you could go in the movie theater, and as long as you stayed in your seat, you could stay all day. I mean, you know, they don't throw you out.
They don't even do that now.
They don't? I don't even
They
know.
don't. Do you think they throw you out if you stay in a theater?
No, I guess not. But so I'd bring like you know, after I saw it, I stayed for the next showing. Then I thought,
Was it the music?
it was everything. No, it was the music. It was the lifestyle. I mean, I grew up on the streets of Chicago. I mean,
Right.
Not that I was in a gang and we're fighting Puerto Ricans, but I can relate to it. And I lived in an apartment in Chicago. I mean, I never lived in a house in my life till I bought one. So I mean, I was very much an urban guy. So that movie was like, so everything was magical. You know, it was just magical to me. So I saw it 11 times.
Over in the theaters?
Yeah, in the theaters. Like you
Over
know,
how long would you say?
Probably 3 days, because I probably saw
No
3
shit.
times, and then like 4 times, and then 3 more
Are
times.
you studying it? You're just getting entertainment out of
I
it?
get entertainment out of it, because you go maybe you see it the first time, then you go take a girl, and next time you watch it a couple times.
How old are you when this comes out?
16.
So this is a year after your play, after you see a play at most?
Yeah, at most 16, 17 at the most.
Okay.
So now at my high school, Morton East High School, Cicero, Illinois,
We'll put
home
up
of Al Capone. You know, that's its claim to fame. I go to school that fall. I'm a junior. I think I was a junior. And I see a sign hanging in the school saying tryouts for West Side Story. And I go, what are they talking about? It's a movie. Are they making them? You know, I didn't even understand it, what they were talking about. And I asked somebody, I said, what does that mean? They go, well, they're trying out to play West Side Story. I said, but that's not a play, it's a movie. They said, no, it's a play. They made a movie of the play. Really? Who knew? And based on my love for the movie, I thought, shit, wouldn't that be kind of fun to actually be one of those guys?
What kind of kid are you at this point? Are you playing sports? Are you cool?
I'm not that cool, but cool in one sense. And maybe it's still this way. In high school, you'd have the cliques. You have cliques.
Yeah.
And you had the jocks, and you had the hard guys.
Hard guys are what at that time? Like the T-Birds?
Yeah, but the Italian kind of Cicero, you was kind of like in Cicero, you were either Slavic or you were Italian. So the hard guys were pretty much Italian guys, which I was one of, but I wasn't really one of those kind of guys. These were the guys that, I mean, their hair was really slicked back.
This is like Grease.
Yeah, kind of Grease.
How would they talk? Could you do like
Kind of like the way I talk.
Yeah?
I'm pretty much, I leaned more that direction, I think, just because ethnically that's what I was. But I didn't fit in. In other words, they drove cool cars. I didn't have any money to drive any cool car. I had no car.
Was it just you and your brother?
Just me and my brother. And they were good with the girls and all. And I was just, but we had a club. We had a group. There were 7 of us. And we called ourselves the Lombards. Only because the one guy lived on Lombard Street.
Sounds Jewish.
Yeah, but there was a lot of Jewish to it, I think.
The Lombards.
The Lombards. And we would go to his house and hang out in his basement and drink beers and smoke cigarettes.
You and 6 other boys.
6 other boys.
All went to the same school.
Yeah, we were called the Lombards. To this day, we still, my license plate that I drove up in the car just now says Joe Gans on it. And that was my name, a nickname back then.
Joe Gans?
Joe Gans, G-A-N-Z.
I mean, that's so Italian. Joe Gans.
Joe Gans, but it was Joe Gans. Gans is not really Italian, though. because the name doesn't end in a vowel. But
yeah, I guess it's the way you're saying it sounds.
Maybe.
Jogans.
But it was an eclectic group. There was 7 of us, and we weren't all Italian guys. So 3 of us were, just because, like I say, because the school has so many of them. But there was this guy Art Stout. There was John Nowajewski, Polish. There was George Mate, Mike McCandless, who was I think Irish. So I mean, it was nothing ethnic about it.
What does the Gons have to do with this group? That's what they called you in there?
That was my nickname, Gons. Just like one guy's name was Botch in the group. Another guy's name was Deli. Another guy was the G-Man. We all had nicknames back then.
This sounds like your Fat Tony crew.
Kind of like the Fat Tony crew, but very not criminal or Italian. But it was great. But anyway, so that was our clique. We were kind of unique, maybe only to ourselves. We even made a little. We in study hall. We would write pages and we'd make it a newspaper. We called it the Lombardian, and we would all contribute little anecdotes, like things we did that weekend, like going to the Forest Preserve and drinking beers and smoking cigarettes. Is what you do when you're 17, 18. I don't even know how we got onto the
If you were a cool kid before you tried out for this
I wasn't that
play.
cool. You asked if I was an athlete. I was bad. I played baseball, but I was bad. I was all field, no hit. So I really didn't have a thing.
Right.
I really didn't have a thing. But I thought, I'm going to try out for this play. Because I loved the movie so much. I thought, might be fun. I'll get cast. I'd be one of the guys.
Yeah.
So I learned. I played the record over and over and learned one of the songs. And I did play a little bit baseball. And so I asked one of the guys who was actually a very good baseball player and ultimately became then a state's attorney in Illinois, if he wanted to try out for it too, because he loved the movie. And he said, yeah, I'll do it. This guy, Glenn Soa. So me and Glenn go down there at night. It's like a weekday night at the school. I didn't even know this. And they said the auditions are in the little theater. I didn't even know the school had a little theater. And you don't go to usually to school at night unless you're going to see a basketball game or something. So we go down and we find a little theater, and I go up there, and we walked in the room where the auditions were, and here's all these kids running around in leotards and stuff. And these were the theater kids, ones that were into this. And I was like,
You're judging it.
I'm not judging it, but it was like landing on Mars, though. It was like landing on another planet. It was like,
that's a judgment.
It's a judgment. But I've been in this high school like 2-3 years now, and I'm thinking, I didn't know this existed.
Yeah, I've never seen any of these
I saw this side of it. And Glenn looks at it and says, I'm out. I'm
going to go study law.
Whatever. Study law and be the good baseball player that I am, but I'm not doing this. And he cuts out.
I like to cut to a clip of him saying, I'm going to go be the good baseball player that I am, and I'm not doing this.
I'm not doing this. So he's out, and I'm standing there alone thinking, oh, now what? Shit, Glenn's gone. I'm by myself. I know nobody in this room. Nobody. Because they're all theater people. I have no clue who these people are. But I thought, I learned a song. I practiced a song, and I'm going to do it. What the hell? And so then they call my name, and I go up, and I'm on this stage, this little theater, and I'll never forget it. The floor, they've got footlights and other lights here. So you can't see who's sitting out there. And it's obviously the teachers who are making this decision, the drama teacher and whatever, and the piano player. And you go, okay, what are you going to sing? I'm going to sing Maria from West Side Story. Okay. And I start singing, the most beautiful song I ever heard, Maria. And I finish the song, singing into this void. And I hear clapping coming from the darkness. And it's the first time I had anybody ever applaud anything I'd ever done in my life. Not that I'd done that much, but...
Are you saying that based on a fact that you haven't done much, or that you weren't given validation as a kid?
No, I hadn't done much. Well, why would I give validation? I did Johnny Ray impersonations for my family, and maybe they would say that's cute.
My mom applauds me when I go take a shit.
Well, that's great.
So I come from a place of it's too much sometimes.
That's a good Jewish mother you had.
GJM.
There you go. I had an Italian mother was like, what my mother lived to be 101, and I don't think she died not really knowing what I did for a living.
Oh.
So but that was good. It was a good thing.
Did you have a relationship with your father?
Yeah, good. But my father was partly disabled. That's why we never really got really too far ahead in life, because he was disabled. He only had part of one lung, so he couldn't breathe very well.
Did something happen to him?
He had tuberculosis, so he spent all World War II in the hospital, in the sanitarium, and they took even ribs out.
Hey.
So if he took his shirt off, he looked like the letter S. It was like this. It was like he was all fucked up. And he worked for a while. He was an insurance man, but then they finally put him on permanent disability at about, he must have been in his probably mid-40s.
So you're a child still.
Yeah. I was a kid. I was probably 11, 12. Yeah. And he was on disability. My mother worked at Sears Roebuck wrapping packages. My brother still lived with us. And that's the reason I think he still lived with us, because he was kind of helping, hanging in there. My brother's the king of dementias.
Yeah?
Still.
He graduates high school. A couple years later, your dad goes on disability. He stays at home.
And
what is he doing?
He's working at Sears, too, with my mother. Then he actually shifts over to Montgomery Ward's, which is like Sears Light, at the time.
Is he still with Kay at the time?
Yeah, he's still. I think it was my brother's first girlfriend, and
but they're not living together.
No, in fact, I'm sure he held up marrying her till he saw that we were going to kind of be all right.
Yeah, because
they were together a long time, and there was no reason for it. They were together whatever. At that time, usually you got married right away if you were that had a girlfriend that long. But he waited.
I want to get back to the audition, and I don't know.
Anyway,
but I don't know if we have it. But just in case we do, I want to give some opportunity of your audition. I think I could find it. We're going to cut to a clip. Maria, I just met a girl named Maria, and suddenly that name will never be the same to me.
And we're back.
So I couldn't find the tape.
No.
So
there's no tape. I don't think they had tape back then. It would have been like 8mm, I don't know.
If I had a budget, I would love to get an 8mm and film somebody that looked like they could be Kid You. I just kissed a girl named Maria. Yeah. And put it in there,
so 1963. Though you can go online and find me at 10 years old on This Is Your Life with Ralph Edwards.
We're going to cut to a clip.
Hi, Joe Mantegna.
Hello, Mr. Edwards.
Well, what a pleasure to see you, Joe.
I like to read to the kids, and Mr. Finnegan would come into my room and find a bunch of the kids sitting on my bed.
And we're back. And that's at that clip. That's the ones when my daughters see it. They go, "Oh, look, he's like Pinocchio. I want to be a real boy when I grow up."
So explain to me what I just saw, because I definitely just saw it.
You saw it, yeah. You saw
but
black
what was
and white.
It?
This Is Your Life. The show This Is Your Life with Ralph Edwards. And that goes back to the...
You were doing that at 10 years old?
10 years old, yeah. Only because... I'll make it a short story. At 8 years old, I had rheumatic fever. At 8, and I was in a sanitarium for 5 months.
What does rheumatic fever mean?
It's a disease.
I don't know so many things.
Look it up. It's a pulmonary based disease that could also affect your heart. And it was pretty, back then it was kind of...
Is that a coincidence that your dad had lung issues and this?
Kind of a coincidence, yeah. But one didn't have anything to do with the other. But for 5 months I was in the sanitarium in Chicago. And as it turned out, they had a lot of benefactors because it's a children's hospital. And you get a children's hospital, instantly you're going to have people who are benefactors, you know. And there was this guy named Richard Finnegan, and he worked for, I think, the Chicago Tribune. And they made a movie about him called Dial Northside 777 with Jimmy Stewart. Because Finnegan was this newspaper reporter, and what he wound up doing, the reason they made the movie is he proved that some guy who had been in prison for 11 years for murder didn't do it and got him out. What made it interesting was the reason he got him out was he was looking for a storyline. Like, what's the hook? I need to write a story for the next edition. And he started looking through the classifieds in his own newspaper, and he saw an ad saying, "I will pay $10,000 to the person who can prove my son is innocent." He thought, "Wow, this is cool. I'll look this person up." So he called, and it was
basically hiring a lawyer who's...
Yeah, well, it said dial Northside 777 because back then that's the way phone numbers were.
And Northside is which is Northside of Chicago.
Yeah. So he dialed Northside 777 and got this woman on the phone saying, "Oh, yeah, meet me at the Wrigley building at 11 o'clock. So he's thinking, "Oh, this is really mysterious. I'm going to go meet her at this building at 11 o'clock at night." So he goes to the building, goes to the floor where she's supposed to be on. Everything's closed up. He's thinking, who is this? And then he sees a woman scrubbing the floors. He goes, "Can you tell me where so-and-so is?" And she goes, "I'm so-and-so." So he finds out it's the scrub floor lady at the Wrigley building who has saved $1,000 a year for 10 years, so she'd have enough money to attract somebody to help prove her son was innocent.
I mean...
So this is pretty cool. So anyway,
Did this real life story?
this has really happened. This really happened.
Now, does this woman? So the woman's son was proven innocent.
Yes, he did. He proved the guy innocent, and the guy got out of prison. So now, cut to This Is Your Life, the show This Is Your Life. The thing now, this guy Richard Finnegan used to come to Lara Beta Hospital where I was, since he was a benefactor. He was the famous newspaper guy at this point. I didn't know. I was 10 years old. What the hell do I know? But he would come and he would sit and visit the kids, and so they sent me to represent the kids at the hospital to be on the show, and This Is Your Life did Richard.
Why send you to represent? What does that mean?
Because they were going to do his life on the show, This Is Your Life.
And he wanted to pick a kid from the hospital.
He didn't want to, but I think the TV show thought he was such. Let's bring a kid along with the real guy. Like that was the show This Is Your Life would do. They would bring out somebody from the real guy's life and bring them out. So the guy they brought out was the guy he freed. This guy whose name was Joe Maychek, I think his name was. So this is the guy who'd served 11 years for something he didn't do. So he was the guy they brought out to say, This Is Your Life, and here's Joe Maychek. To accompany him, just as like a thing to show the magnanimous personality of Richard Finnegan. And here's this kid who was actually in the hospital that Richard used to contribute. So that's all. So what made it funny is Ralph Edwards, who was the host. If you were 50 years older, you'd know who Ralph Edwards was, and you know all this.
Well, we'll put a picture up.
Yeah, you'll see. But your dad will know. You put him on. He put me on his knee or something and says, "And what do you want to be when you grow up, Joey?" And I said, "I want to be a policeman." And so this is the stuff my children laugh at. But this was my only foray into show business, was being on. This is a long story about nothing.
I want to get into show business between you and I.
Yeah.
And with that, I would like to talk about some personal stuff with you and your family, if that's appropriate.
Yeah, sure. Most anything's appropriate.
I just censored a joke.
Yeah, that's all right. That's your call.
I'll cut to a clip. You know what I'll do? I'll have me like this for like 20
Froze.
seconds, and I'll put in some voiceover of my thoughts.
Yes.
And then
That's
cut
good.
to you picking your nose.
I
and
like it. Yeah. I'm not going to pick nothing.
So Italian again. So you and I didn't know this when we first started. Well, I guess I have to set up what the show is. I feel like I probably will have already done this in the introduction to this episode, but you and I just finished filming a pilot created by Jason Katims, who created a few things, but Parenthood and Friday Night Lights are two of my favorite shows. And it was awesome. And it's an adaptation of a show called On the Spectrum that was filmed in Israel. And I don't think it's going to be called that anymore, but this is all exposition to get to the point of this is a show about, the way I describe it is it's a show about three roommates who live together. It's basically the way that the Israeli show described it. Three autistic roommates who live together trying to gain and earn their independence.
Yeah. This is us, and the us are all on the spectrum.
Yeah.
I don't even know the show This Is Us, but that's what it seems like. In other words, stories about these different people. But in this particular case, those four people are all on the autism spectrum. Right?
I would say more Modern Family, but
Modern
one house.
Family. Well, that's true. See, I don't know I'm just basing it on the ads I see for This Is Us. I've never seen one episode.
It's just dramatic. It's dramatic.
What's more dramatic?
This
This
Is Us
has
is
more humor.
Yeah. And I asked Jason about this too, because it was billed as a dramedy, which I think that dramedy just means a half-hour drama, because there's a lot of shows. Orange is the New Black. I remember when
Right.
Louis, they were starting that because he's a comedian. Like,
Right.
these aren't comedies.
No, I know what you're saying. Yeah, you're right.
And-
it is what it is. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it.
Well, when I asked Jason, because I was confused, and he said it's a drama with funny moments.
Okay.
Like it almost seemed
I'll
like
buy
he
that.
wanted it to be that.
Well, yeah. Okay.
So I've talked about this on the podcast a little bit. I was diagnosed with level 1 autism when I was 30 years old, a few
You
years
were.
ago. Yes.
Okay.
And man, I'm censoring myself now because I don't want to talk too much about something. I always get a little. Yeah, I want to say this. I had this conversation with Jason's wife, incidentally. Who Jason has an autistic son. I brought this up because you have an autistic daughter.
Yes.
And meaning the people I'm working with, their experience are being a parent to somebody with autism.
Mm-hmm.
Not only is that a specific type of relationship with someone with autism, it's also watching development throughout. whether it's pre or post or during diagnosis and everything
Right.
thereafter, you have an understanding of what autism is based on your relationship with your daughter and what you've learned since that, right?
Right.
My relationship with autism, outside of just knowing some people with it a little bit, is me.
Right.
With the awareness that I have, which it wasn't until I was 30 I realized how limited that was, and I don't know where it is now, but it's worlds wider. But this is what it is. So I say that because if you look at me when I was a kid, in the different diagnoses, the different classes, having to go to the special schools, getting kicked out of all of these things, all of these issues, it would be like, oh, I could see where some of Rick's obstacles were, and that kind of makes sense. I'm now fortunate enough to have made a career in comedy where I was able to wear sweatpants and speak to whom I want to, how I want to, developing the tools and the jokes to get around stuff that consciously I didn't even realize I was doing. And I'm at a point now where when I just started talking about this to people, they would question it. That's not what autism is. Does that make sense?
Say that again.
Sure.
Just that last comment.
I have two of my friends. They're like very close friends. They're
Right.
a married couple. When I got this diagnosis, which was a couple year long process,
Right.
one of them said, "Yeah, we obviously,"
Yeah.
and the other one said, "I don't know if that's right."
Okay.
And the point I'm making is just I've developed a little bit of an insecurity of having this feeling that I'm selling to somebody something about me that I don't even know. I think I've made an identity for.
I see.
When I got this diagnosis, it was now all these unrelated things made sense.
Why did you get the diagnosis?
So for a couple years, when I was introduced to some people and I started to connect, like, oh, I behave this way, and I started to learn a little bit about autism.
I see.
I had this idea that, am I autistic? I don't know. I mean, my friends would even make jokes with me about it, and I say jokes. Take it how you will. There were jokes. I mean,
Yeah.
derogatory words that didn't offend me, that still don't offend me. That's me. But like, it was a delicate balance of what's inspired and what's making fun and satirizing, right?
Right.
Then there was, and I don't want to talk too much about this now because I have mentioned this on here,
understand.
but then there were a couple moments in my life, within weeks of each other, I got kicked out of a poker game with my friends, and I got kicked out of a basketball game with friends and coworkers. I'm kicked out of these two things with two unrelated groups in 2 weeks where almost everybody in there is an acquaintance or a friend of mine. And it was then that I realized, and I have listen, the guys in the poker game were boring as fuck, and I was being hilarious. And these basketball players, it's not my fault they're not that competitive. I'm trying to win. This is how you play basketball. I didn't see that they're just trying to get exercise and they're just blah, 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 blah. I still think, okay. But what I can't deny is the fact that this has happened my entire life, and I
Right.
never recognized it.
I see.
My old boss sent me an email. I ended up making this little web short about it. And he sent me this beautiful email that was basically, a lot of the guys in the game don't want to play with you anymore. Here's why. Take it how you will. I just think it was kinder than what I'm saying. I don't think you realize how you're being received. That triggered me big time because even though I disagreed, I realized everybody's not crazy.
Right.
So I looked into it. I went to Annie.org. It's an autism network organization, and on it had specialists who do adult diagnosis. In Southern California, there were 2 people. There was a list of why should I be diagnosed, like literally questions I would ask. I'm fine, and I don't know if that's disrespectful to say I'm fine, but I'm fine.
No, it's
you know
not
what I mean?
at all.
There were a couple of things it said, and one of them I didn't even realize would trigger me. I started crying. It was just it's you could better understand how to communicate to other people, how they could better communicate with you, and it just like that's been such a problem. I communicate to people the way I want people to talk to me.
Right.
Not only do they not do that, when I do it, I've realized I'm aggressive.
Right.
I'm rude. When people. I could go too much into this. I would love to have another conversation.
Well, there's
with you
that
sometime.
whole thing of quirky, that many people consider, quirkiness, or what we used to. There's that whole thing of like, oh, that teacher you had that everybody thought was quirky was actually autistic. That
Yeah,
type
the
of
quirky is developing tools to communicate.
thing. Yeah.
It's weird to say It's weird to say, "Hey, man, my weekend was great. How was yours?" So you just come up with a bit. instead.
I get it.
And then for me, I forgot why I created the bit. Now I'm just doing bits nonstop.
Yeah,
I'm bothering
great.
everybody.
Great.
I don't want to do the bits.
Right.
I just can't say
that's
good.
That's why spectrum is a great kind of term for it all, because it really is such a big spectrum.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I see where like you said, I've been a parent of a daughter with autism for 32 years now. So if nothing else, I have a pretty good perspective of what that's about. So what I see in you is, I see exactly where you are. And what's great is that you are at this very, if you're looking at it as a spectrum, you're in a place of the spectrum where if you have a choice where you want to be, that's the direction you kind of want to be, as opposed to the opposite end. And now, of course, there's a whole lot of stuff in the middle.
My understanding of the spectrum is less about where are you sliding this way and more about there's all these different things. There's picking up social cues. There's obsessive compulsive disorder. All these things. And almost like building like an NBA 2K character and picking attributes.
Yeah, but you have somebody like you has.
It's three-dimensional.
What's good is you have more. You have more things from column A than you have from column Z.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And some people have like tons of shit at column Z and only one thing at column A. Like my daughter, at column A, she's got, she's incredible with dates. She'll tell you.
Is that numbers also?
Yeah, numbers, dates, being able to tell you, or looking at a photo and telling you from 25 years ago and telling you what we did and ate for lunch on that day. That's column A stuff. But there's so much stuff at column Z that it's like, okay, this is a party trick. But it would be nice if she could tie her shoes. You know what I'm saying? So
could she not tie her shoes?
No, not really. She could learn it.
She was diagnosed.
But that's one of those things of like she's got great motor control over things like computers and things like that. But certain other things, it's not that she can't do it, but she was probably taught one way to do it as a child, and then now it's like. It's just easier to wear slip-ons than to deal with that. Stuff like that,
She was diagnosed young, 2.5.
Yeah, 2.5, 3.
What's so interesting about that to me is that, and if my facts are wrong, they are what I know from what
right.
But I remember I saw that it's hearsay, I guess is what I'm saying. But in 1993, it wasn't until 93 that autism was even acknowledged in the medical journals.
I would think sooner than that, but maybe not.
I remember
only because she was
because this is 1990.
This was 1990 when she was diagnosed.
And you noticed that her what makes you think I want to get this checked? And did you think it was autism?
No. Well, I wasn't sure what it was. No, it didn't come to mind because it wasn't that prevalent in terms of being in the general
zeitgeist.
Yeah, just out there. So what it was when we were actually in New York. I was working in New York almost that whole year, and we were visiting a lot of friends.
You're doing what, Godfather?
I was doing two things. I was doing Woody Allen's picture,
Alice and
Godfather back to back, kind of. In fact, I was
one then the other.
I did one, then the other, and then back to the one. I did like
you were filming them at the same time then.
Yeah, for a time, because Woody Allen takes so damn long.
How long is that? How long does Alice take compared to Godfather 3?
Oh, forever. I mean, but that was Woody back then. I don't know what it is.
What's
like
forever
now.
mean? 8 months?
Well, I'll put it this way. I started shooting on that I think it was November 2nd. And after the Christmas holidays, I still had plenty to do. And he knew going in that I had to go to Italy to shoot Godfather in like after the holidays, like in mid-January. And it was like, oh, yeah, don't worry. You come back and we'll pick up where you left off. So I left, went to Italy, filmed Godfather for like a month.
Production stops.
They didn't stop. They kept going.
Shot out.
He was shooting with other people, shooting with William Hurt and Alec Baldwin, who were other people who were in the movie. My stuff. He just kind of put my stuff on hold. But then when I came back, we resumed. So I think I was on that movie probably from, let's say, November 2nd, 3rd till May.
Wow.
But that's because he did a lot of reshoots. In other words, it wasn't like he was shooting every single day, but then he would stop, and then there would be a couple of weeks off, and then he'd say, okay, we got to reshoot this. So it's almost like another movie.
Okay, so you're in New York.
Anyway.
You're filming all the movies.
Anyway,
doing
all of that. But what had happened is we were hanging out with other people with children the same age as my daughter. And we were realizing there's a discrepancy here. These kids are talking. These kids are just...
Is your daughter quiet with you as well?
Yeah, not saying much and not giving much eye contact. And, but I guess in California, we weren't quite as immersed in as many people in one place with the kids around the same age to pick up on that this is a little unusual. So it happened enough for us to think something might be up here.
Okay.
So we called, I forget how it all happened, but we were able to go to, might have just been a regular MD who suggested, you should go see a psychologist or whatever it is. But that's when they go, they sit down with us, they sit with her for a while, and they call us into a room, and I'll never forget the one doctor in New York saying, well, okay, we think that there's probably about 10 things, 10 behavioral kind of things that we look at that define a person that we would say have autism, and your daughter seems to exhibit about 7 of those. So she's not...
You hear that, do you ask what are the 7, or are you just taking in...
Well, if you were just like, you feel like you've just been hit with a cannonball in your chest, but then you go, okay. And then they start telling you.
Could you tell me some? Do you remember?
Well, the stuff of like,
The eye contact.
The eye contact, the language is not is not there. I mean, she's just saying not...
Does she have a speech impediment as well?
No, just no speech at all, really.
Right.
Sensitivity to sounds.
Sounds in particular or other sensory things?
Sounds in particular, especially things like high-pitched,
Yeah.
anything that would be like, even that we would find irritating, she would find super irritating.
Still that way, I'd imagine. Yes?
No, not so much now.
Really?
No, she got over that.
Okay, sounds, eye contact, communication.
Eye contact, communication. And socialization. In other words, a bunch of kids would come over and they would start all playing with each other, and she'd be just as content to just sit over there and
Now, do you think
line books up in a row.
Do you think she wanted to be playing with those people and didn't know how, or didn't realize she wanted to, or it's just in her own world?
I just think she was in her own world. I think she wasn't on the radar.
Right.
In other words, if people took her and brought her into it,
yes,
she'd participate. It wasn't like she had an aversion to it, but she was not going to instigate it. She's not going to just say, "Hey, what are y'all doing? Let's get involved." So she was very satisfied and happy to kind of be doing her own thing.
Okay.
So that once we got that diagnosis, then it was like, okay, well, all right, then if that's what it is, then that's what it is, and that's how I then all of a sudden became the word autism had a big, impact on our life. And so now everything autism related became something of interest to me. And I started getting involved with any groups or organizations or things that might be.
Are there any in particular other than Autism Speaks?
Well, Autism Speaks, I mean, I was there when that got created. I mean, I know how that got created because it actually started because there was a group in New York where we first got diagnosed, a group called NAR. National Alliance for Autistic Research. Somebody turned me on to it because again,
yeah, you know what? The ANNE, the site that I told you, I noticed I think it was /NAR or something. I have seen that acronym.
Well, it could
before.
be. Well, in 1990 there was this group called NAR in New York, and so instantly I contacted them and said, "Well, hey, I think our daughter is."
How'd you find them? There's no Google.
It just. I don't know. Somebody must have suggested. Maybe the doctor suggested.
So you look them up, and you're looking for information.
Anything we can, and so I meet the people. The fact that I'm an actor and have a little bit of a profile, they were more than happy to yeah, Joe, sure. Can we help you? So I'm now involved with this group NAR. But then I also realized we lived in California, and that when all these 2 movies are going to be over, we're going to be coming back here. NAR's not going to do me a lot of good in New York. Mm-hmm. So I come back out here and I find out there's another group called CAN, Cure Autism Now. Mm-hmm. And it's run by this guy, John Shestak, and his wife Portia. And they're in show business. And they have a son with autism. And so they started that group. So now I get involved with them. So now I'm involved with both. And I would do things that would benefit both. Like, in other words, if I could. In other words, if somebody said, "What's your favorite charity?" I'd say, well, NAR and CAN. Mm-hmm. Then what happened is Bob Wright from NBC.
Shout out to Bob Wright.
Yeah, Bob Wright and his wife,
Cheryl.
not Cheryl. I forget her last name, her first name. Bob Wright, and it's easy to find out because he and his wife become grandparents to an autistic child, and this guy's like it's first. No, I shouldn't say the first time, but obviously this is now autism has now affected a guy with a lot of juice. Let's put it that way. He was chairman of NBC, so he decides to use that power and that position and that money to be able to say, well, now how can I help my grandchild? Well, geez, he's bicoastal. He because of what kind of work he does, he's a big shot in New York. He's a big shot in L.A. But we can't have these two different groups. Let's combine them. So it was really Bob Wright and his wife who pretty much, I think, were the impetus to take CAN and NAR.
When would you say that? When did that happen?
Bring that together. I can't quite pin the date down, but I would imagine sometime, let's say, my guess would be like the late 90s.
I'm sincerely interested in this, but I don't want to spend too much time on
Right.
the origins of that.
But
because-
anyway, they got together, and there was even a third group that was out of New York. They got them involved too. So that became Autism Speaks, which it became now this very huge, monstrous thing, which is good. Because you had too many kind of diverse things all kind of going after the same kind of funding in a way, and I think it's better served, maybe.
Did you think about before having your second daughter about it being a genetic thing?
Yeah, it crossed our minds. But the second daughter was like a surprise. I was a surprise. A lot of second kids, I think, were, especially.
You're saying the kids themselves are surprised when they come out? Who's normally surprised?
The parents are surprised that
Gotcha.
we're actually having a kid. Again, it's like, oh, what? Hello?
That was-
You're pregnant, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But then once you realize that, my wife had some concern. But right away, I asked the doctor about that, or asked the doctor at the time, and they said, there's nothing we can see. There's nothing pointing to either of your backgrounds that make us think that there's some sort of genetic link to this.
It's my understanding that with certainty it's genetic.
That what is?
That autism is genetic.
Well, but I guess the point they were making is even if it is genetic, there's nothing pointing to them saying it's not like it doesn't sound like your father and both your father and mother was, and you have a brother who had it. In other words, this is the first time it's popped up. So if it's genetic, according to what you're telling us, we don't know where it came from.
So,
or if it's because of the merging of you two, maybe it is. Maybe we'll find out the kid is going to be, is going to.
and she doesn't.
And she doesn't.
It's Gia, right?
Gia.
And Gia is growing up. Mia's growing up, and now it gets to an age where socialization is more important, not because they're around their parents' friends' kids, but because they're in school. And
Right.
And I would love to know, because as you're learning about autism with these organizations, with all the juice, with everything that's
Right.
going on, now she's in middle school, high school, and is having difficulties communicating with typically with neurotypical people. And I would imagine you feel a responsibility to help teach these lessons in a way that our relationship, yours and mine, in the show that we're doing, you playing my father, there's a I don't remember, I don't know what I'm allowed to talk about, but basically there's a scene where you need me to hear you, and you say some stuff. I'm actually, like, I could get emotional now with this, but there are A, B, and C you need to be able to do. I'm not going to be here forever. This is important. It was almost like it was more important for you than it was for me.
Right.
So I would have to imagine there's, if you choose to, a lot you could draw from with that. And I would love to know what that's like to try and offer forms of communication to somebody who communicates different than you.
Yeah. I
And I have to imagine you learn stuff from the way
Right,
she communicates.
right.
That's a very vague, not even a question, but is that something you could talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. It almost prevented me from doing the show, in a way. In other words, when I came to me with the script and I read it, I loved it. I loved the writing. I thought it was beautiful, and it was so, it was out. I just felt It's like when I read the script of Searching for Bobby Fischer, or when I read the script of a lot of the things. I've been lucky enough to work with David Mamet for many years, and some of the stuff he's written.
I rewatched Bobby Fischer last night, by the way.
Yeah, it's a wonderful movie. You know, and
yeah.
Steve Zalian's a wonderful writer, and it's funny. I just saw him, and he agrees that it's probably the best thing he ever wrote. And that's how I felt about the script. I really did. But the question I asked myself is, since I make my living and have for 50 years being an actor,
Right.
do I want to? You know, it'd be like the milkman who on his vacation decides to deliver milk. You know what I mean? It's like, do I really want to? Do I really want to take my life at home to work every day? You know, in other words, in a way, my work has been it's somewhat. Everybody's work is an escape in a way from. People talk about vacation is an escape from work, but it works the other way too. You know, work can also be escape from one's real life. When you're an actor, that's really the case because we live this fantasy life when we're performing anyway. Mm-hmm. So depending what's going on in our real life, doesn't matter when you're on the stage or in the movie, you're doing a thing, you're pretending to be somebody else. So when I read that script and here I was being offered this role, I thought, oh yeah, great, I'm being offered the role of a parent with a child with autism. I am a parent with a child with autism.
Do you think that's why they reached out to you?
I don't know. Might have had something to do with it.
You didn't audition for it?
No, I didn't audition for it. But it had something to do with it. But in the same vein, if the kid that played my son in Searching for Bobby Fischer didn't look a lot like me in the sense that dark hair and stuff like that, they wouldn't have come to me for that either. They might have.
Well, there's a lot of filtering in the casting.
Sometimes that happens, yeah.
But I would imagine they think of it as a benefit.
Yeah, maybe. I would like to think that. And if so, fine. And if not, that's fine too. But bottom line is I liked it so much. But my point being is it did cross my mind that do I really want to do that? Do I want to?
Did you discuss that with your wife?
Yeah, I did. And but she's great. You know, she carries so much of the burden though anyway because it's a daughter. First of all, it's not a son. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like a father-son relationship. And a father-daughter relationship is a whole different ballgame. So while I am obviously very involved and very much immersed into it, I'm not at the level that my wife is because there's just certain things, a mother and daughter have in common that a father and daughter just aren't gonna.
I understand.
That's just the way it is. Just like I'm sure you have a specific relationship with your father that might be a bit different than it is with your mother.
Incidentally, my mom is the one who taught me how to shave. And
well, moms do things. They do more of the practical stuff. Well, but bottom line is she understood, and she understood. She we've been together for over 50 years.
Yeah.
So she gets it. If I tell her, look, I need to do this thing. I think this is worth doing, and I'm going to do it. And there's no problem there. That's fine.
So in the communication between you and your daughter.
Yeah, the communication between me and my daughter, it's a whole different thing because first of all, she's not on the same level on the spectrum as you are, or your character is.
Don't even feel the need to equate it to mixing between me and...
No, I understand, but all I'm saying is, but for me, that's a factor because it's there's some obviously similarities there, but it's a different ballgame.
Forget our character's relationship then.
Right.
I was just using that because seeing that in you, I
Right.
would like to hear how you two are learning together how to communicate, which is interesting for a child and an
You're
adult.
talking about me and my daughter.
Correct.
Yeah. Well,
And are you getting frustrated during those moments when she's not understanding, or do you feel that you're not understanding?
She's 32 years old now. We've been doing this a long time.
Yeah, I'm curious about when you were younger.
Oh, when you're younger.
When she was younger.
When she's younger. Yeah, you go through periods of frustration. You go through sometimes also when they're going through. She's an adult now, but when you're going through their pubescence and childhood and young childhood and teen years, you also have to say to yourself, how much of this is typical?
Right.
No, let's not confuse. Let's not blame it all on the condition.
Yes.
Because maybe it's also hormones.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Sometimes it even gets a thing like, I never had sisters, and so I have to look to my wife and saying, is this just a girl thing?
Right.
Or is this an autism thing?
Did you ever use Gia, even though she was younger, as like
Yeah.
Same.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way. It would have helped if Gia had been born
Older,
first, of
right.
course, because then we'd been able to say, oh, okay.
So retroactively, you look back and be like, oh, this is a daughter thing.
Absolutely.
That must have been like how interesting to see something that would normally bother somebody to be a silver lining.
Right. No, absolutely. And the great thing about like Gia's a unique and wonderful human being because she had to be the big sister from birth. And so she benefited from that. So she has a sensitivity and an awareness and a maturity and a intelligence about it, probably more than I do, because she was, that's all she knows from birth. You know, I had many years without that experience till Mia was born.
Did you feel the need to sometimes because, and I'm drawing these questions based on parenthood basically and seeing and thinking about this, but is Mia, who's older and requires some extra attention, getting that extra attention, and does Gia feel that it's cannibalizing hers, and do you ever have to go out of your way to give her?
I think there was a time in their childhood that it was apparent, and Gia could pick up on the fact of why is it all about her?
Yeah, because you could be resentful of something like that.
Oh yeah, but I think we were always pretty sensitive to that and pretty good about that, and I think we were very open and good about making Gia understand the reason for it and the fact that yes, your sister is a little different. It's not. You know what I mean? But it's okay. But she's your sister, and there's a responsibility you have there, and this is the family we have. But you know,
there's a line, I read something, and pardon me for pulling up my phone, but I want to read it out loud. I don't remember what it was. I read things, but I took a snippet from something that you were interviewed in, and it was something that a teacher, I think it was a first grade teacher, it said. Okay. And it's the teacher basically, it was Mia going into this typical classroom,
yes.
And the way the teacher, and I just want to read this quote.
Okay.
This is the teacher speaking to the class of kids. This is Mia. She's going to be a little different than the rest of you kids. She might start singing to herself. She might walk up to the blackboard. She may talk to herself. She may say some inappropriate things. It doesn't matter. She has autism, and we're all going to help her. I cried when I read it, and I'm a little bit now, and that's kind of what connected when I read that. Just teaching other people how to communicate with you. You're going to be weird or different or unattractive when the other person has to fill in a blank, because unfortunately people aren't that creative and they fill in the easiest, meanest blank.
Right.
And if somebody just says, yeah, listen, this person does this thing and she talks and she does this weird thing. And I mean, yes, that happens. We don't have to pretend it's not happening.
Yeah.
But it's also like, yeah, let's acknowledge it.
No, you're right. You're right. That quote, what you just, and as soon as you said, I realized, yes, those would have been the exact words I would have said to you. That was the most life-changing sentence that anyone ever said to my wife and I in the whole 32 years of my daughter's existence. So as emotional as I see it had impact it's had on you,
right,
it equally has on me.
You even used it, and that's made me think of it when you said, when you were talking to Gia and saying she's different, acknowledge it.
Right. And that changed our whole life. When that teacher, and I just saw her. I was just, as I mentioned to you, I was just in Chicago directing this play, and I called her.
You invited me, and I very much want to find an opportunity to come and see it.
You will, because whether you see it in Chicago or it'll be back here in L.A.
Cool.
Because we do it as a pop-up show here, and once the run is done,
if people watching in Chicago, where is there a website?
You just go to LennyBruceOnStage.com.
Cool.
And it's playing at the Royal George Theater, which is a really nice theater there. It's right across from Steppenwolf. Everybody knows where Steppenwolf is. It's right across the street.
I don't want to lose steam.
But anyway,
we ran into the teacher.
But this teacher, so she came and saw the play because she's part of.
Yeah.
I mean, we are forever in love with this woman, and we're ever in debt to her, because just by doing what she did, spun our whole way of thinking around of how to, what to not what to expect from our daughter, but what to expect from everybody else in a way.
Yeah.
What to expect from the world. Like, in other words, I always knew that the world's not going to all of a sudden stop and say, well, wait a minute, let's all be kind to Mia and let's all do what we need to do to help Mia. We knew that wasn't going to happen, but we at least knew, but wait a minute, what we can do is rather than put her in a box with all these other people and say, okay, you guys, you live, you guys
Right.
behave this way and you guys hang out together. No, you got to tell the world, hey, look, see this?
That's what Autism Speaks is doing.
Is
It's awareness.
Awareness.
You see this. I've had a shocking amount of people, based on how many listens I get from this podcast, messaging me about their quirkiness, their diagnoses, their wanting to be diagnosed or curious about. And also with that comes stories of their past experiences and experiences with people in their life. And one of which that is kind of a consistent one is people who believe their child, their niece, their nephew, their younger brother. I say brother is usually a guy, but we think it's this, but we not wanting to know, not wanting to investigate, not wanting to. It's stigmatized in a way of this weakness and this bad thing, when the truth is it's not like you're going to then go all of a sudden get it. This is something that is, and there's rule books for it, and there's tools that you could have.
right.
And I think this idea of not wanting to acknowledge it, whether it's because it makes you uncomfortable, you fear it would make the other person uncomfortable, which is the same thing, or what, the opposite of that is telling the classroom this thing.
Right.
So I don't know if I'm taking a moral point or whatever I'm trying to, but the point of what I'm trying to say is acknowledgement and acceptance and understanding are only good things. And when we don't do it, by this teacher telling this class this person's different, she also taught this class, for those that picked up on it, that, oh, we can acknowledge things and people are supposed to be different. So I don't know what horse I'm on right now, but my experience with some of my teachers, which is a very different thing, and I'm not putting myself in your situation or her situation, but I'm just saying my connection, the way the teacher spoke to me, to my parents, to the class. No, that's fucking amazing.
Yeah, no, it was amazing, and so from that point on, we demanded nothing less than that, and so
How so? Was there a situation where you had to demand that?
Well, not that you had to demand it, but you had to. Not everybody. You didn't. The world wasn't full of Karen Fendlers. This woman that thought that way. So in other words, we that was in Chicago. When that movie ended, we had to come back to Los Angeles, and we were back in the L.A. school district and the regular. Oh well, we have special ed for children with autism, and we had to basically say, no, we're not interested in that. We're interested in. She was in a regular school class in Chicago for that semester. You're gonna have to do the same thing here,
right.
And so all I'm saying is some of those teachers are not all gonna have that same mindset she did. But
Did
some
she have
did.
this Karen?
Karen.
She had a relationship with autism?
Yes, she had a brother with on the spectrum, and so that's why her point of reference was. But yet, I remember distinctly. I think it was her 5th grade class. Mia's here. He was in Mr. Wong, and my daughter Mia to this day will still talk about Mr. Wong, because we walked into Mr. Wong's class, who I think was the 5th grade teacher, and again it was just a regular 5th grade class. She was going to start the semester in September, and we walked in on the day before the first day, like the orientation day, and met with him and said, "Mr. Wong, we have our daughter. We don't want her to do special ed. We'd love her to be able to try to do a regular 5th grade class." And we explained to him that we tell him the Karen Fendler story. This is what has happened, kind of.
Yeah.
When we can get it done, are you up for it? Because basically the school will say, well, it's up to the teacher if they want to deal with it. And he said, yeah, let's give it a shot. I've never done that. I've never had that situation, but I'll do it. And he did it. And it was great because at the end of the year, he came to us and said how much he had learned from it and how much he realized it benefited the other students because they had to, and because we did that same thing. We had to be Karen Fendler. We had to walk in on that first day and talk to the class and say, here's the deal. We have this daughter. She's going to be a member of your class. She might do this. She might do that. You all could be very helpful if you will, and if there's a problem, just let us know and all that. And of course, there's always going to be little bumps in the road, but man, it all worked out, and it continued on through high school. It continued on through college. My daughter to this day, she takes college classes. She goes with an aide,
and she is she works with productions as a makeup artist, correct?
Well, if our show gets picked up, we
met her in the
to
makeup
producers. She will be an assist because she actually graduated from the Mud Makeup School. She has this fascination and this overwhelming kind of love for makeup.
Do you think is that a form of art, or do you think it's a form of a way that she could communicate with people?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Because putting on makeup is very intimate. You're literally physically close to people, but there's no obligation to talk. You can talk. It's intimate for 5 minutes.
Well, she got hooked on this one. There was a girl out of England named Lauren Luke.
Shout out to Lauren Luke.
Yeah, and so Lauren Luke would do these things on the internet.
Oh, tutorial videos.
Yes, with her dog, and she'd be doing. And now we're going to do this, and she'd have her dog sitting there. My daughter Mia was fascinated, and she'd watch this endlessly. As it turned out, I had to go to England to do some publicity on a movie or whatever it was. Probably was for Criminal Minds, and just on a whim, I reached out and was able to contact Lauren Luke and said, "Look, here's the deal."
It's cool having juice, isn't it?
Yeah, it was, because she responded instantly.
Right.
And we went to England, we met Lauren, and we hung out with her. And as it turned out, her show got so popular that this makeup company, I think it was Sephora, decided to pick her up. And
that's
they
awesome.
sent her here to do like a publicity tour. So we hung out with her here. Then, of course, they dropped her because it didn't quite work out. She's back in England. But that whole thing was like a...
How did that make Mia feel? Is it Mia or Maya?
Mia.
Yeah. How did that make Mia feel?
To what?
To meet somebody.
Oh, it was great. I mean, but
did
for
that
Mia,
inspire her more?
But for Mia, she expects that. In other words, she expects those things to happen. Mia will say, like, I want to meet, like Bush, the group Bush. She loved the band Bush. So she goes, I have to meet Gavin Rossdale. And I'm thinking, I don't know Bush or Gavin Rossdale from The Man in the Moon. But somehow it works out. And now to this day, Gavin Rossdale is very close. We know him very well. Gwen Stefani, who was his wife at the time, same thing. Same thing with the.
So you've trained her to know that anything.
She's in a way trained me that anything is possible, because by putting it out there in the universe, she seems to think, I need to do this. I need to meet this person. Maybe it creates these vibrations, and maybe I use a little of my juice to kind of let me tickle the dragon's tail and see if something comes of it. And a lot of times it does.
Is tickles a dragon's tail? Is that a saying?
If it is, I made it up.
Just now, you possibly just made that up?
Yeah, I made that up.
Okay.
But to me, I've used it before in the sense that that's
you're waking him in this
there's something out there that could be huge, dangerous, and you don't even know what it's about. But let's give it a little shot, see what happens. Let's see if it laughs or it turns around and kills me.
Did makeup make her give her a sense of independence? Is this like, to be able to make money doing something?
I don't think that's on her radar. She doesn't quite understand the whole thing about making money. I mean, she did some bookkeeping for my wife when we had a restaurant. Because she understands computers.
Yeah, Taste of Italy, which I found out about.
Oh, Taste of Chicago.
I'm sorry.
Taste
what's
Chicago.
What's the difference?
2 words.
Taste Chicago.
Taste Chicago.
Which was so close. My co-producer and neighbor George said he was there all the time. He said he would see you in the back like you were running the joint.
Yeah, well, every Fridays. Friday was like all the guys from Chicago would hang out there, and so that was like it's like a get together.
And how long did you guys have that restaurant?
Almost 16 years.
And then it stopped recently, huh?
Yeah. My wife was just done.
Right.
It's tough business, restaurant business.
And Mia worked there until it closed?
Not in the restaurant, but in the office. Like
doing the numbers.
The bookkeeping, doing the numbers.
Yeah.
Because she
She's good with
learned
numbers.
QuickBooks, and she can good at numbers.
Right. That's not a parlor trick then, is it?
No, that isn't a parlor trick.
Yeah.
But she doesn't quite understand. She understands money and stuff like that, but she's not really in terms of like.
So she lives with you
of
still?
value. Oh yeah. Well, I'm Italian. She's going to live with me.
My girlfriend asked me a question. She prefaced with saying, "This is a little bit selfish," and I'm curious if you know why she thought this question was selfish, because I think I understand why. I know now because I asked, but she wanted me to ask you how talking with your daughter has made you a better communicator, and I could tell you why she thought that was selfish.
Okay.
But
I don't know if it's made me a better communicator, but I think it's made me a more patient.
How is that not?
Communicator?
That's
Maybe
such a better communicator.
I guess that is being better.
When you're not patient, you're not present, and then you're not your best self. You're not thinking about that. I think
That's true.
A huge flaw in communication
That's
is
true.
people not.
It's like this. It's like, you know how people, when you meet somebody from a foreign country and they know a little bit of English,
Yeah.
and so you tend to like really focus in on them,
Yeah.
and you start talking to them like in, yes, the car.
Yeah.
You start
It's
doing
so
all that.
simple. You bring it
So
simple.
You bring it simple. So that's, in a way, you know, with my daughter Mia, it's been 32 years of elements of that. So if you do that in your daily life every day with a
Simple
human
is
being,
clear,
with your
though.
daughter, it makes it, simple is clear. And so then I think it does probably helps impact you. Sometimes my wife goes crazy because she'll accuse me of overly doing it.
Right.
Because then I realize, okay, because I'm doing it.
I'm sure it happens sometimes.
Yeah, you know, I'm basically talking to her like I'm talking to, and she has to tell me, I know, you don't have to,
Right.
You don't have to break it down to every single component. I get all that. And I go, I know. It's just, so you have to catch yourself.
It made me think of something you did in Searching for Bobby Fischer, which would have been before all this, so it's coincidence anyway. And this is such a reach, but there's a scene in it when you're playing chess with your boy, and he let you win, and then you're like, no, the wife called you out, and you're like, okay, let's see if this is really the case, and then you convince him to play for real. And in this scene, you're taking a significant amount of time during each move. He runs back in the room, does it fast, and leaves.
Right.
Great, fun. So in this, we're seeing you thinking, and we're seeing him not only not have stakes in the game, doing it better than you.
Right.
And the wife said, don't worry, you're not going to affect his ego. So that's kind of just like the setup of this scene to me. And there's a moment where he's in the bath, and he has the checkerboard memorized, at least for the next two moves. And he tells you where he said, "What did you do?" "I moved the pawn," and he knew which pawn. And then he said to move the horse, and you go, "It's called a knight." Right? Is that right? It's called a knight. And you look to your wife, who looks to you, and like you make a face like he doesn't know anything. And I rewound that. It's so funny because that's you trying to take. What made me think of that? What did you just say that made? I don't even remember, but I rewound that, and I thought that what a funny choice. And I'm assuming that wasn't a scripted thing. I don't know if you would even remember.
I don't remember.
But I know what's making me think of it. Just the you knowing that you're losing, but still needing to grab something. Mm-hmm. Point being, my girlfriend asked. It's a selfish question. Ultimately, we all come from different places. We all communicate differently. Everyone is typical and everything else. So there's a lot here. But the way she and I communicate, and I love her, the way she and I communicate is sometimes difficult. She comes from multiple countries, none of which being America. Her mom is Eastern European, and English is not her first language. So there's a lot of different cadences. But she says stuff to me sometimes that I don't understand. And I don't understand because it seems to me contradictive of stuff. Because she said to me today, talking about Judd Apatow was on Dax Shepard podcast, and she said, yeah, it was interesting. He was talking about his daughters and how they got into it, and then she continued going. And in my head, I'm thinking got into it like they were fighting. What does getting into it mean? And then 2 sentences later, when she's talking about acting, I realized, oh, she's talking about acting.
Right.
Sometimes 2 sentences later doesn't happen. So what I usually do is when someone says something, I stop and I ask the question immediately.
Right.
I can't visualize it. But what I've learned is when you do that, it throws other people off track. She feels that I'm trying to catch her in something, which is her own stuff.
Right.
So I now have to calculate in moments, do I ask or do I not? So not only do I not know what it means, and I have to keep that blank, because like I said, I know people fill them in. I don't.
I get it.
I have to keep this here. I'm also not present because I'm wondering when could I ask, and all these things. And it's just a fucking dance that we're growing, we're learning, and it's fine. But she wanted to know, what did you learn because
Yeah, I get it.
And also, it hurts my feelings sometimes. And this isn't negative to Betty because I'm so in love with her, and she's fantastic. This is just communication. It's a line, and it's about the line, not the two people at the end of it. But I almost want, and she does. I don't know if I'm saying something negative, but she does give me the benefit of the doubt, but I need that. I need the benefit of the doubt. If I'm asking you something, people build in subtext. Why does this person want to know this? I just want to know. I can't visualize it.
Right.
Answers have always been, to me, like I said this before, but answers are easy, questions are hard. Once you have the question, Google it, ask somebody. It's fantastic. I love finding new questions because then I get information. But people have subtext of why you're asking this. And then I have to learn how to communicate my question. I'm talking so much. Let me give you one more example. Thank you. Is this okay?
That's great. I get it. You're talking to somebody who gets it. If nothing else.
Yeah, but if people are listening, it's like...
oh, fuck them. They didn't get it or they don't get it.
So this is right around the autism diagnosis. And I have a girl over, not intimate, a friend. We're writing something together, right? And she's telling me a story of something. And as she's telling me the story, and it's 2 minutes goes by, and then there's something where I don't... and I said, what's the point? And then she said, what's the point of that? And then she finished so she's got talking, then I say, what's the point? And then after that, she finishes in like 15 seconds. And I noticed that she spoke faster and that she ended the story. And all I noticed was the way the energy was before I said it changed after I said it. I didn't know why, but I did recognize that. Cadence changed and ended sooner. So I had to check in with myself. Okay, I must have did I do something that changed her energy? What did I do? I said, what's your point? I've been told that I could sound aggressive. So that was the first time I've done this, which is a new tool of mine now, and I get better in the moment. But I said, did you feel that when I said, what's your point, that I was being aggressive? And thankfully, she told me the truth. I have since learned that sometimes you ask that question, puts people in a defensive.
Did she say yes?
She said, yeah, it did a little bit, but it's okay. And I said, I'm glad you told me. My intention, literally didn't understand what you meant, so I couldn't follow. Now, once you gave me that information, I'm interested. Please continue. And then everything was fine.
That's great. That's great.
But what's your point? To me means I need to know the point. If I wasn't interested, I wouldn't ask.
Of course.
But to someone else, it means wrap it up. When someone checks their watch, it means I got to go.
Right.
And so I have to, at 30, learn these things. And at 30, people do them subconsciously anyway.
Yeah.
And it takes a certain type of person who's, one, understanding of that, and two, willing and wanting to have these annoying conversations.
But there's also that thing that, when people are on the spectrum, one of those things, of course, talking about like those 10 things, those signs of the, of course, as you may, I'm sure you well know, one of them is that inability to decipher a person's intention based on what their face is doing or whether, so in other words, just saying the thing like, what's your point? The difference between saying, what's your point versus what's your point?
Yeah.
It could be immense, but
I don't make
people,
them either, the faces, because I never really appreciated them.
I know, but what I'm saying is if the other person does make, let's say a person does make those faces, but yet the person who not saying it necessarily is you, but like my daughter, depending if a person says, what's the point? Or what's the point? She may not make that differentiation. To her, it's just it's the words that she heard, and she does not in any way pick up on the, intention behind it.
I talk about that in my stand-up. I talk about how when I was a kid, I would ask so many questions about the faces that people are making and why they're doing it. I'm just questions nonstop. Right. I have since gotten really good at them, where I could pick up on them well, and I could do them, but it becomes calculative, and when I am thinking, like, if I say, what's your point, I feel like I'm lying to you. And it just gets exhausting.
I know. You're right. Just maybe you should lose those 3 words out of your vocabulary.
Yeah, no, I know. What I say now is, could you say that differently? And I noticed you said that to me earlier today.
I need a clarification.
Yeah. Could you say that differently? Allows people to think that what they said isn't wrong. It just I need to hear it differently.
Yeah, and I think the reason I would say that is because I am sensitive to that. In other words, I could understand that you would get that and realize I'm just not getting it. Your way of explaining it isn't working for me. You're gonna have to change how you do it, but you're very good at it, so that's not a problem.
Okay. So I guess the answer is, Betty, patience. And also that isn't something that I'm entitled to. That's something I would appreciate and do not necessarily deserve. And thank you for letting me ask you so many questions.
And I love the fact that you say you love Betty so much.
I do.
That's great. You tell her that, of course, right?
She'll find out when she listens.
Okay. But have you ever told her that right to her face?
Yes.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
You're a good boy. I'm so proud that you're my son.
Do you have a little bit more time that we could talk? Like 10 more minutes?
I do.
Okay. You've done every show and movie in the world, and we've talked about makeup and my girlfriend the entire time.
That's all right.
So if the show ends up getting picked up, or even if it doesn't, if you'd ever be willing to come back and do
Yeah,
this, I would love that.
You play my son. If God willing, if this show goes, you and I are going to have. We already have a unique relationship, and I mean, I think that would only grow from there.
Joe, that show feels so special.
It is special.
That show feels so special.
It is special. It really is special. I've been, as I said, I've been in this business 50 years, and so that, in a way, that's the only thing that keeps me from getting more excited about it, because I know how.
Yeah.
I know how it can go.
Yeah.
And I don't want to set myself up for a disappointment. But all I can say, or would want to say, is that if there's any fucking justice or intelligence or anything in this business, this won't be the end of it.
Why does it feel special to you?
Because it's the same reason. It's the reason I did this show, Joan of Arcadia. I did 2 seasons of it. We just did the 2. It should have done more, because for the same reason, it's about something. Mm-hmm. We're in the business of, it's more than entertainment, what we do. It can be.
You're saying it's education.
I'm saying there are educational aspects to it.
Right. Or informative more.
Couched in entertainment.
Right.
That's what I liked about when I did that series, Joan. I had a development deal with CBS at the time. I could have picked any fucking show in the world.
Joan was about what?
Joan was about a girl who talked to God. She
was
my daughter.
Play of Joan of Arc.
Amber Tamblyn played the part. You should just see, if you just saw the pilot episode, the first episode, it would tell you everything you needed to know.
I'll watch it.
Because when I read the script, it was like when I read the script to Searching for Bobby Fischer, and like when I read the script to On the Spectrum.
When you read the script of Searching for Bobby Fischer, was that offered to you, or do you audition for that?
It was offered to me.
So
I think it was because I looked a lot, not that I looked a lot like the kid, but I think I was on at least that small list of actors that conceivably maybe
physically could play.
Physically, because if that kid would have been a blonde-haired, blue-eyed kid, they might not have put me in that list.
So you get that script, which is fucking unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then they say, hey, they want you to do this, and you read it. What a feeling! Like when I read scripts that are good, that I am auditioning for a small role, I'm like, oh,
right.
That must have been you must have read that fast.
I read it fast, and I remember I called my agent instantly, and I says, because now you're looking for justification. You're looking for
like what? Why are they asking me?
No, not why am I asking me, but am I kidding myself? So in other words, I call him right away and say, "Did you read it? Yeah. Did you think it was one of the best things you've ever read? Yes." Then I had already shot the movie Bugsy, and with Ben Kingsley, and we're at a party for it because I think it was an Oscar party because we got nominated for Best Picture. So I was at this Oscar party, and I had heard that Ben had been also offered a role in this Bobby Fischer movie. So when I see him at the party, I go, Ben, did you read a script called Searching for Bobby Fischer? He goes, oh, yes. I think it was one of the most wonderful scripts I've ever read in my life. And I went, bingo, Gandhi thinks it's great, too. When Ben Kingsley, I mean, my agent affirming it was like, okay, great.
Sure.
I respected his opinion.
And how do you, because you worked on, right.
Yeah, but we had done Bugsy together, so I knew Ben. So then we wound up doing Bobby Fischer together. But it was just so great that I thought, okay, my taste is not like screwy. I can tell something that's the difference between something that's okay and something that's really special.
All right, so go back to that you read this, it's special, because you said what we do isn't just entertainment. And then what were you
so bottom line is, you see a movie like Searching for Bobby Fischer, it's not just entertaining.
Right.
It teaches you things about parenting. It teaches you something about a lot of things, about whatever you get from it.
The monologue you have, which is undeserved, but it got me. I loved it when you blew up at the teacher for saying it's just just chess or whatever it was.
Oh yeah.
But to say my boy has a gift, and when you acknowledge that, then we will have a conversation. And just you being in his corner, which when I say undeserved, it just meant like That was a you thing. That it wasn't. She wasn't that bad.
No, I know. No, it wasn't.
just-
I wasn't. And you can see it in my wife's face. That the
Yeah, but
characters
I love
painted
that. I
it.
love
Oh, that's the clip.
that.
They when that movie came out, that was the clip
Oh, really?
they showed everywhere. When I went on the Tonight Show, that's the clip they would show. And the way it
I want to
surprised
cut to
me.
a clip of you on the Tonight Show real quick.
Oh,
And we're back.
great. Yeah, it was. It would have been. I think it was Leno was probably the host because I did a few episodes when he was before he was the regular host. He was
Of course, he was the host. We just saw it.
but he was the guest. Yeah, you just saw it. But anyway, Laura Linney, she did all right. The teacher I yelled at, her career actually took off after that. But so getting back to that, reading that, it's about something. Joan of Arcadia about something. When I read the script we did, the pilot we did, again, I felt that. I felt that thing of. And again, I knew, just as with Joan of Arcadia, here I had a development deal with CBS. I could pick anything the star in to be the star. Instead, I pick a show where it's called Joan of Arcadia. It's going to be about a 16-year-old girl.
Right.
I'm just going to play her father. But I didn't care because I felt I have to do this. This has to be on the air. And if by me accepting it because I have a development deal, they greenlight it, so be it.
Oh, cool.
That's how I felt about this. This show's not about me.
You're the
on
only
the spectrum. I was
you're the
going to
only
be the
person-
dad.
You're the only person in it that people know.
Well, there was that, maybe that, but beyond that, it's not about me. It's not my character at all. If it's going to have a lead character that at least in this pilot episode, carries the weight, it's you, and I am your dad. So I am in support of what the journey you're taking. But that journey is so wonderful, and not just yours, but all those other characters. Jason's a wonderful writer. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. I mean, I've worked with great writers. I've worked with Hammett. I've worked with Coppola, Puzo. I've worked with Woody Allen. I've worked with people who know how to Barry Levinson. These people know how to write. You know,
we did a scene together outside where it was the scene that I referenced before. It's a very powerful scene. It's
in the pizza place.
Yeah, it's a cry when reading it type of scene.
Yeah.
And during after a couple of the takes, and I wanted something so I could perform it better, and I asked you. During your line, basically it's a line reading, but not for your performance, but for mine.
I know.
And I asked if you could, when you say something, if you could hold it longer than it was supposed to be, to let me kind of take that in. And I didn't feel insecure or uncomfortable asking you that. I was aware of what I was asking and didn't know how it would be received. And like you were just like, you know, Francis Ford Coppola is directing you, and I'm saying, hold this a little bit. I've never done a drama before, okay? And then you said, don't worry about it. And you also said it where I don't know if it was intuitive for you or you did this on purpose, learning how to talk to people, but this is the stuff I picked up on. You squinted and you like waved it off. You like, you let me know even with your face how much it didn't bother you. And that was, I needed all of it. I needed the thing I asked for, and I needed to not be worrying about anything else.
Right.
And I don't know if you knew how to talk to an actor or to a stranger or to me or whatever it was, but the way, not only did you do it, and I crushed the scene, you also made me feel so safe, and it was just walking away from that and then talking to my girlfriend and my parents about how the scene was, that's what I was talking about, and just how comfortable and working with you was amazing, but not just working about next to somebody who is amazing, but letting me be the best I can with the tools I have.
Well, that's the key. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things you learn early on in acting school, if they teach you anything, which they can teach you some things, but one thing that sticks in my head is always that thing of, first they say acting is reacting, which is, there's a lot to that in the sense that, to make it, unless it's a monologue, it's a dance. Mm-hmm. And it's that old line of like, as good as Fred Astaire was, Ginger Rogers had to do the same steps but backwards.
I've been saying it for weeks.
Yeah, it's that same thing. So in other words, if you can get it, and in this instance we had a 2-person scene, it's you and I, and you want, if you're not being the best dancer you are, and me not helping you be that best dancer you are, and you not helping me be the best dancer I am at, it's all shit. We're not going to get the gold medal. We're going to get the silver or the bronze. You always got to go for the gold, and sometimes you can't get it because the participants aren't up to it. They're just not quite there. But when they are, it's fucking magic. You own that role. I felt that the day we first did the reading of it, and that was very important to me too, because I thought, as much as I love the script, I hope the fucking kids are good. You know what I mean? I said the script, well, to me, you're kids, and so it's like I hope they're good because this script deserves it. But I thought you are every character I felt was right. And
That's really nice. Thank you.
It's the truth. I mean, there's no reason to bullshit you. You know what I mean? It's that's why it deserves to go, because it really is. Well, it is what it is. Let's just hope for the best.
Watching some of the performances from the other people, when it was, I visualized it the way I did reading it, and then you see how other people visualize it based on their actions. Well, man, did it get me! Like like in the scenes, like watching them.
Great.
Wow.
But
I'm so excited to see this thing.
That's, the term I use a lot is if it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage.
Yeah, you wrote that back in that email.
And it's the same in whether it's film or television or whatever, obviously theater. If it's there, then all you have to do is, it's like we're translators.
Yeah.
That's all we are. And if the material is good, we'll translate it,
That's how I feel about that line I was talking about communication between people. If it's on the page, there's still a way to say it to people, and they need to receive it a certain way. And in movies and television, we have close-ups, we have takes to pick, and we have music. And in real life, you kind of don't. And I have to think about how would I perform this sometimes.
Right.
And that's when I told you I feel like a liar. I feel like I'm doing a performance in real life. But I'm talking too much about that. And you need to give me 2 more minutes to tell me about a few questions on The Simpsons, and then we're going to leave.
Absolutely.
So my relationship with Betty started, we met online, and we were talking. She lives in London. And we were talking.
I met Betty.
Yes, she came to set.
Yeah.
Betty and her mom.
Yeah.
And we were talking, and then we ended up FaceTiming for a couple weeks. And then I love London. I went once before to do stand-up. I was thinking about going again, and she was kind of incited that a reality, And so I went. We never met before. And I went, and we had this whole trip planned. She was going to her friend's wedding in Spain 3 days after I got there and asked if I wanted to go. Then I've never been to Rome. I've always wanted to go. We did this trip. We planned it. I said, listen, it seems like we're connected. If for whatever reason you're not attracted to me or I'm not attracted to you that way, we obviously get along enough. Maybe it could just be a friend's trip. I don't want there to be any expectation of fucking or whatever. I would love to, but just I want to feel safe. I want, what I'm saying? Like the most Jewish I could be.
Attaboy.
And we got it like, great. We all feel safe in this arrangement. And I literally met a girl and then traveled the world with her, right? What made me feel so connected to her was the way we did jokes on the phone, and she would do a lot of Simpsons references. The Simpsons and Fresh Prince raised me as far as my comedic abilities and appreciations, right? And I realized something that I'm maybe making up. It's just a hypothesis that I do believe, and I don't want to test outside because I'm happy with this, with Betty. But I think what I need to add onto my list of who I'm looking for, somebody that grew up with The Simpsons. Just the way she is The Simpsons.
I got it.
Is it because of The Simpsons? I'm going to say yes, but I don't know. It is for me. So that's a long-winded story of telling you how important. The first time I ever masturbated when something came out of me was to The Simpsons. I don't know if that's
that's pretty unique.
I didn't know what it even was. I used to put my schwanz under the water faucet in the shower. When I was 8, it just felt good. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I would touch myself constantly. I'm always touching myself. And then one day I'm touching myself while I'm watching The Simpsons, and then some stuff came out.
Was it Marge or was it the...
I don't remember what episode it was. But I don't think... it wasn't Patty or Selma. I could assure you this.
Okay, well, yeah. Fat Tony married one of them.
But...
almost.
But the first time I ejaculated was to The Simpsons. I don't know if that's a realization I'm having now.
I hope our show gets picked up for no other reason so that I could tell Matt Groening this story.
My first cum was actually to Fat Tony. So my question for you is: do you ever come to The Simpsons? It's such a generic question, but this is the show of shows, and you've been. I think I saw it was 1991, but Fat Tony's been in since the beginning, so it had to have been earlier than that.
I came in season 3.
Okay, so the character came in season 3 because there's no other Fat Tony.
There's been no other Fat Tony. I started him. I do. I've been quoted. They keep running that quote a lot when in bios of me. They'll say, and Joe Mantegna has been quoted as saying that even if he has one word on as a character, he wants to do it, which is true. And I told them that. And I think there was one instance where they actually, I think it might have been Phil Hartman or somebody. I wasn't available, and they wanted to stick one line in of Fat Tony's off camera, and somebody did it.
Did you ever meet Phil
And it
Hartman?
still bothered. Oh, I knew Phil pretty well because I hosted Saturday Night Live once, and he was in the cast. He also played my assistant in Three Amigos, where I
Right.
played Flugelman. And then we did The Simpsons together.
You shoot Simpsons, you go in, and you do multiple episodes in a sitting, right?
Not always. So usually you just do the one. But if there's a case of, let's say, especially early on, you only did the one up. You would do that episode, that would be it. As it got into season 25 and stuff like that, if they knew that there was going to be a Fat Tony bit in the third episode, and then they also had that fifth episode written, and they know Fat Tony's going to do something in that, then I'll do both.
Do you ever improvise as him?
Sometimes
'Cause it's your voice.
In other words,
Like
yeah.
that
In other
Italian-
words, I'll because first of all, you're working with brilliant people who are good at that.
Right.
I mean, some of them, Hank Azaria and those guys, they'll
It's crazy,
They'll throw
man.
stuff in there.
Yeah.
And so you figure, okay, I should have enough license to at least give it a shot. And they'll tell you if they don't like it, they don't like it. They're always very gracious that way. In other words, so if I feel I could bring something to it. In other words, if I see there's something going on in the dialogue that I think. And sometimes I'll ask them. I'll say, "Do you mind if I try this?" And
Yeah.
99 out of 100 times they'll say, "Oh, of course, just say it." Unless they have a real specific reason, like they might even say, "You can't say that because we already know from the legal department you can't say that maybe a person's name that I think would be appropriate for this bit." But yeah, it's my longest running character. I've been doing it for 29 years.
And he doesn't age.
He doesn't age. Well, he died though. I mean, he died.
When did he die?
Well, did you miss that episode?
I stopped watching religiously in the early 2000s.
Okay, there is an episode, and I'll never forget when I got that script. I get the script, and Fat Tony gets killed. But what happens is his nephew,
Sure.
Fit Tony, because he's built, he's buffed, he works.
When
in
did
a
this
gym.
happen?
This happened about 5-6 years ago.
Okay.
And it was the demise. I mean, it was a big deal. Because when I read the script, I thought, wow, okay, I guess it's over. Because I didn't finish the script. I got to that point where he gets killed, and I'm thinking, fuck, he's dead. They killed him.
And then you didn't finish it?
No, of course I finished
Oh.
it. But then what happens is the character. It's the whole episode is a mock. Is a you know how they do sometimes they'll mock something.
Yeah, making fun of how people come back.
Where they'll make fun of a real thing, like they'll make fun of a movie, a famous
Sure.
movie or a famous some. It was the Johnny Depp movie of what was that gangster movie where he played the gangster who ratted out Al Pacino.
Oh, yeah, the Green...
No, not Green Mile.
not Green Mile. It wasn't Green in it? I watched it on a plane.
No, it's a guy's name. It's
I thought it was Green something.
No, it's,
I'm going to tell you now, even though
It's what's
semantics.
his name? He plays the Al Pacino's the guy, and then Johnny Depp is the pretending to be it, or is it Leonardo DiCaprio?
Black Mass.
No, not that one.
What?
No.
Oh, that's what I was thinking of, and that's why I
No.
said
It's
color.
the one. Maybe it's Leonardo DiCaprio. No, it's Johnny Depp. It's the one where he's Pacino's a gangster, and this guy's pretending to be a gangster, but he's not really a gangster.
Oh, you're not talking about The Departed, are you? Because that's not Pacino.
No, not Departed. No, this is Pacino. It's a famous movie.
Well, we'll put it up here.
It's a guy's name. Anyway, this whole episode.
Green Mile?
No. It's a guy's name.
I'm joking.
Oh. Anyway, this episode of The Simpsons is a takeoff of that because there's narration at the end, and so what happens is my character Fat Tony gets killed. His nephew Fit Tony tries to avenge him, and it says, and then the voiceover says at the end, well, Fit Tony eventually takes over the mob. He actually stops working out, starts gaining weight, and they start calling him Fit Fat Tony, and then finally they just drop the fit. And so it turned out to be a really cool episode because I got to play Fat Tony. I get killed, then I have to play Fit Tony.
Do you get paid as two characters?
No, it's one episode. But then I changed the voice a little bit to be Fit Tony because he looks different. He looks like, but
What does
he's
Fit
built.
Tony sound like?
I can't remember. It was like 7-8 years ago, and he only did that one episode because then what I did is I segued from Fit Tony into Fat Tony.
Uh-huh.
So I think I pitched them up. So I like Fit Tony talk like this, Fat Tony talk like this. But Fit Tony might have been up in here more like this. You know what I mean? But then when he became Fat Tony, he dropped it back down. He dropped a little bit more into this register. So now I'm not Fit Tony anymore. I'm Fat Tony. You gabish? Gabish. So anyway, so that was something. I mean, that was pretty cool. So Fat Tony is really the nephew now for the last 6-7 years. But he's Fat Tony.
You heard it here first. Fit Tony is now Fat Tony, who was Fat Tony.
But they know that. Everybody watches Simpsons know that. Only people like you who dropped out or didn't or missed that episode don't know
Just
that.
so you know, it feels like you're being aggressive with me now.
I am being aggressive with you.
Everybody doesn't know that Fit Tony's Fat Tony.
Not everybody. I'm saying everybody who watches The Simpsons religiously. There are people, as you know, who watch every episode. They know it.
Yeah.
No, that's what I meant. Not everybody. But when you said you hear it here first, you're talking to those people. I get it.
Yeah, but what I was really doing was just like buttoning it with like a fact.
A fact. I get it.
But now the fact was watered down, so I need a new little something to end it with. Do you have some interesting fact that you could tell me that I could tell people they heard it first? Either something that truly is.
Yeah, no.
There's no other facts?
You're on your own, Rick. Go
Well,
ahead.
you heard it here first. I have been and still am on my own. Thank you so much to Joe Mantegna. Oh, my God. I never talked to you about Airheads.
Airheads. We'll do it on the next show.
We'll do it on the next one. When we met, when we were sitting outside, I said I teed up Airheads because I thought to myself at the end of this pilot, I'm going to ask him to come on and I want to talk to him about one of my favorite movies ever. And you told me about the shark and the fish thing.
And the shark, yeah.
And we never I have to have you back.
I will. I'll come back.
I rewatched it with my girlfriend the day we met. I fucking loved that movie.
That's great.
He
I'm
wipes
glad
his
you love
ass
it.
with his record contract. I love this guy. I
yeah.
say at least once a month,
There
which
you
isn't
go.
much, but it's a
That is
dated reference.
That's good. No, that's good. I love that.
Well, you heard it here first. He loves that I do that and blah, blah, blah. I
And
can't
you
believe I didn't
play
talk to you about Airheads.
Well, you're my boy. You have that, we're going to have a lot of discussions in the future.
All right. Thank you so much for coming over, man.
You're welcome, Sonny boy.
This was cool.
It was cool, Rick. Really good.
All right. Well, I'm sorry for the triple endings, but you guys heard it here first. It was cool. Thank you guys so much. My name is Rick Glassman, and with blah, blah, da, 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 and then the music comes in.
Music swells. Off we go.
Scoot doo, blabbity blue.